I'm a believer in starting meetings promptly, so I will begin tonight. My name is Mark Kelch. I will be the moderator this evening. These debates were laid out by Ken Botero. However, the City Council in their infinite wisdom decided to hold multiple council meetings tonight on a kind of a last-minute scheduling change, so he's not able to be here this evening. Marcel Goulet will be our timer this evening. He has cards to hold up at 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, and end. Could you hold them up to make sure? I know you asked, Mark, you can both see the 2 minutes and the his time's up, so thank you for that. The format this evening, both candidates will have a 3-minute opening statement. We'll then go into questions. They'll have 3 minutes to answer a question. The opponent to that person can then have 3 minutes for theirs. We'll have 1 minute each bouncing back and forth to respond or rebut what their opponent had discussed. The questions will alternate, so whoever went first on the first question will go second on the second question, et cetera, as we go through. Closing statement, they both also have 3 minutes. The order has been determined by a coin flip. Opening statements will begin with Mark Nelson, with Darren Ullmann going second. Closing statements, Darren Ullmann will begin and Mark Nelson will conclude with the closing statements. The questions, I have a particular bent. I get to be like a soccer referee. I make all the decisions when they come up here. I try to get to every question that I can possibly get to, or every topic. However, if your question is written to one candidate, not another, it has a very low likelihood of being asked. If it is a long political statement with a small question at the end of it, it has a low probability of getting asked. And don't laugh, because those come up here on a regular basis when they come up and go through. So I'm not going to ask, have you stopped beating your wife lately? Those kind of questions just aren't going to pan out. It's all strictly logical questions. If we get multiple questions on the same topic, I will edit to paraphrase them and get them all covered as best I can. Any questions from the audience before I begin? Thank you. We will begin. Opening statements. Mr. Delson first.
First of all, thank you all for coming. Appreciate you being here and taking time out of your evening to listen to us yak about whatever it is that you asked us about. I'd like to say thank you to Ken Botero, even though he is not here, and of course Mr. Kelch and Mr. Goulet for their part in this. Quite briefly, I'll try to keep it brief as I can. Most of you know me, many of you have heard me talk about all of this stuff before, but I was born and raised here in Cowlitz County. This is home to me. I've raised my family here, went to school here, graduated from Mark Morris High School, Lower Columbia College, attended the Lower Columbia Leadership Academy here. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. When I got out of the service, I worked a number of jobs, but law enforcement was always my heart, always my calling. I ended up joining the reserves, Sheriff's Reserve, as soon as I got out of the Marine Corps, and served as a reserve deputy for a number of years, and then was hired by Longview Police Department. Worked for the city of Longview, transferred to the Sheriff's Office, where I worked as a deputy, worked patrol, worked in our services division, did search and rescue, firearms instructor, was the training deputy, taught DARE, all those things. Went back out on the road, was promoted to sergeant, supervised a patrol team, and then investigations, handled all the major investigations for the Sheriff's Office. And in 2002, I was promoted to the captain's position, oversaw the patrol division for 7 years. In 2009, I went through a competitive process, was appointed as the sheriff to fulfill out the remainder of Bill Mahoney's term, and then in 2010, I was elected by the people, and I've served in this capacity ever since. Lots of interesting opportunities during that time. I've been through a fair amount of issues, most of them budgetary and those things, and yet we've continued to provide a great service to the community. We've continued to be out doing the job, taking care of our community, and responding to calls for service there. A number of other things we'll probably get into a little bit later, but again, I'd like to thank you all for being here. I appreciate it, and wrap this up for now.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Mr. Ullmann, 3 minutes for opening statement.
Well, good afternoon. Good evening, I guess. I am Darren Ullmann. I apologize you're all missing the World Series right now. The Giants are still winning as I left my house, so hopefully Kansas City will come back and fight. I'm a Kelso kid. It's 5-0. Okay, good update. I'll keep those coming. I'm a Kelso kid. I graduated from Kelso High School, went on and joined the Army after high school, where I was promoted to sergeant within 3 years of enlistment. So Uncle Sam obviously recognized I got a little bit of leadership ability. I went on to move my family back here while in the military. I spent a number of years overseas. I ended up in Iraq, ended up with earning a Bronze Star while serving in combat. I brought my family back to the community after my time in the military, went to college here, went to college at Evergreen State College and also down at Portland State University. Joined the Sheriff's Office in 2013. Since then, I've held just about every position that a deputy can hold in our department, and I've excelled in every one of them. I have a lot of leadership behind me, and if you want more information on everything that I've done, it's too much to stand here and list tonight, but you can go to my website at darrenforsheriff.com, and I've got everything listed on there in complete detail. But in short, I'm president of the Washington State Search and Rescue Coordinators Association. I also serve on a number of boards. I'm also on the board of directors at the Cowles County Historical Museum. Many of you may know about the exhibit that I curated at the museum. It was a 5-year project on the history of law enforcement in Cowles County, and that's still over at the museum. You can go see today. Really fast, I'm running for sheriff because it's time for an innovative view from the sheriff's office. We're getting into that era of law enforcement where things are changing, and things are changing rapidly, and we really need a new perspective on how we do business. And it's important that the sheriff's office keeps up with that. Technology is changing. Technology is changing the way we do business, and we recognize that. So it's important that we stay on top of it, and it's important that we have a fresh perspective that leads us into that. And I have the backing of the Cowles County Deputies Guild. My coworkers agree that it's time that they are ready to progress forward, and they're excited about the opportunity for change. So I'm going to go ahead and keep it short there. I know there's lots of questions. We'll go forward. Again, you can check my website at darrenforsheriff.com, and it'll answer just about every question you can imagine about me. And thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Ullman. First question this evening will be directed first toward Mark Nelson. Will the sheriff think about taking over the jail?
I'll think about it if I get asked. The jail is a separate entity from the sheriff's office. It is a county department. Back in 1989, Sheriff Peterson entered into an agreement with the Board of Commissioners, and the commissioners took the jail from the sheriff's office, made it a Department of Corrections. So it became a separate entity. And by the way, RCW allows that. They allow for that. There are 5 counties in the state of Washington currently that where the sheriffs do not run the jail. The topic has come up sort of on a peripheral basis. It's been discussed some with the commissioners. I don't think the commissioners, quite honestly, are interested in giving up the jail as far as running it. The jail is the number one user of general fund resources at about 17% of the general fund resources. So there's a lot of things that happen with the jail. There's a director, and that director works specifically for the county commissioners. But if they want to engage me in conversation about taking over the jail, I'm perfectly willing to have that conversation with them. But so far, it's not been something that they have been interested in doing.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Ullmann. Would you care for me to repeat it?
No, I think I understand. If we do, and I agree with what my opponent has stated, that there was a time in the county when we were flush with money. It's hard to believe, but it was actually at that point at one time. And when that happened, the county decided to cleave off several departments from the sheriff's office. It wasn't just the jail, but it was also 911 and the records department. So they made that decision. They had the money to do that. And I think if a cost-benefit analysis type analysis is done, I think we need to look at it realistically and take a very strong consideration. And if it would benefit the county, if it would benefit everybody involved, I think absolutely the sheriff should take the jail back underneath. But it would have to be agreed upon, and it would also have to be beneficial. I mean, I don't think we should do it just because it should be done. I think it should be done if we can prove that there's a benefit to the county and a benefit to the people involved, and it can be done smartly. And we do it with all the ducks in a row, and if everyone agrees and it looks like it's good on paper, then I think absolutely that the sheriff should take over the jail. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson, up to 1 minute for response or rebuttal.
Okay. Actually, all of the agencies in the county used to each have their own dispatch system, or their own dispatchers. The county did, which covered Castle Rock, Kalama, Woodland, and Kelso had their own dispatcher. Longview had their own dispatcher. Those entities did combine after a period of time. That's all happened over quite a period of time. I was there. I've seen that process. I was there when records combined, when the records department from the county and records department from Longview formed their own agreement. So these things are all part of agreements, interagency agreements that have happened over the last number of years. And so they're not something that's going to get changed. There are a lot of players, a lot of people who are involved in this process that would have to come to agreement, but not that it's impossible to do.
Thank you. Mr. Ullmann, up to 1 minute for response or rebuttal.
I don't have anything.
All right. Second question will be directed first to Mr. Ullmann. It's a compilation of 2 questions here. With the abuse of legal and illegal substances at the root of a lot of crime here, what would you do to address these root causes? And the other one is, one major topic today is the drug force and their added workload with the new law supporting marijuana. How will this affect the drug force, and how important is the drug force organization in your department? I believe they mean drug task force, but
Goodness.
I know it's a lot, but there's same
Hopefully I
topics.
can get that out. The drug task force is a very valuable tool. It's a very valuable tool to the county and everybody that lives here. They do wonderful work. The guys in there, I worked undercover in the drug task force for 3 years. And I worked on the Cowlitz meth enforcement team prior to that. I had the goatee down to here and the earrings and the whole thing, and I had the complete look. And I have no desire to do that again. The drug culture in our community is very real, and it's very deep. And what we can't miss in the whole conversation is the fact that it's not just people using drugs. It's not just shipments of drugs coming from Mexico and Texas and California. What we have to look at is, what is the cause of this? Why does this continue to happen? Because the drug task force has been there for a long time. They've been there, they've done a lot of work, but we still have a drug problem. So why do we still have this drug problem? Why is it so prevalent in our community? It's the root cause of this problem that has to be addressed. And I'm going to try to get through all this because I know there's a lot to this question. We have kids that are growing up today that are waking up in the morning and they're finding mom and dad with needles hanging out of their neck. And to them that's normal. And that's not normal for most people. And they don't understand that that's not normal. So we have to look at working with mental health. We have to work with CJAC and other agencies where we can develop a process or a program for these kids to know that that's not okay. It's not normal that your parents are stealing metal off of telephone poles to buy dinner and to buy dope. That's not okay, and that's not normal. So I don't have the answer on how we stop that, but I understand what the problem is. So we have to first address the problem, then we'll find solutions to getting to the answer. And it'll be a collaborative effort. We need to work together. We need to get a street crimes type unit countywide at the sheriff's office that is overseen by the sheriff's office that involves all the agencies. We need to go after that street level dealer/user that's out there ripping wire off of poles, that's burglarizing your houses. That's our problem. It's not the drug kingpin coming out of Mexico. It's the guy on the street that's burglarizing your cars. He's breaking into your houses. That's our problem, and that's where we need to focus our efforts. Once we do that, then we can start to knock down the problem and start educating our kids. As far as the marijuana issue, I'm trying to rush through this like I've got my timer hitting me. The marijuana issue, really, our whole perspective on marijuana has changed since the medical marijuana laws began a few years ago. We don't prosecute like we used to. We don't investigate it. Well, we still investigate the crime, but it's not like it was before. And it really got clouded with medical marijuana. Now that it's pretty much legal, there are still legal ramifications for excess and so on and so forth. But it's really important that we stay on that. But it hasn't really created more of a workload, or it hasn't really decreased our workload. It's pretty much stayed the same because of the medical marijuana laws.
Thank you. Perfect timing. Mr. Nelson, same question. It was kind of lengthy. Do you want me to repeat, or you have to jump?
Well, I think I sort of got the flavor of it. So a lot of interesting aspects to that question, and I want to touch on them. First of all, unfortunately, as you might know, there is no single answer to the drug problem. This drug problem has been a problem for ages. Cowlitz County is not going to fix the drug problem. However, we're going to keep addressing it. We're going to keep fighting it. We're going to keep on top of it as much as we can with the resources that we have. But it has to be done at a variety of different levels. It has to be done through education. As a former DARE officer, I stood in the classroom, I talked to the kids, I spent time with them, talking to them about the dangers of drugs, what that was about, what it looked like in their homes. So I get that, and I've answered the question from those children who asked, what do I do when I find my parents doing drugs? I've answered those questions to those kids and talked to them. The other is doing investigations at a street level. Absolutely. That street level enforcement that we do, which includes things like investigating burglaries and investigating thefts and all of those crimes that are out there, well, I'm going to tell you, that's what I paid deputies to do. That's their job. So if that's not happening, that's a problem. But I'm going to tell you, it is happening. They are out there. They are doing those investigations. They are making those arrests. So I don't like the implication that that's not happening now. As far as a street crimes unit, finding the personnel to do that, I'd love to hear where that's going to come from. So I'll touch on marijuana real quick. Marijuana is still illegal in most circumstances. There are some specific circumstances where marijuana is legal. The laws are muddy. It is true. There is no question about that. And they have to be cleaned up by the legislature for us to have any clear, that's upside down, any clear way of knowing, of addressing this issue. So hopefully that's where the emphasis is going to be. I know that my role on the executive board of the Washington State Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs and the Washington State Sheriff's Association, those are things that we are emphasizing the legislature come in and help clean up.
Thank you. Mr. Ullmann, up to 1 minute, respond or rebut.
I think one of the things I learned most about working with the museum is learning from the past. We have to realize that if we keep addressing the same problem with the same approach, nothing is ever going to change. It's never going to change. DARE was a wonderful thing. DARE didn't work. We still have huge drug problems. The kids were still... I went many raids and had people wearing DARE t-shirts that were selling dope. So that tells me that the message wasn't quite getting there. It was a great cause. I loved DARE. I thought it was great. But in this real world, we have to realize that, hey, maybe that didn't work. Maybe we should try it a different way. Maybe we need to get a little more open about what's going on. Maybe we talk with kids real time instead of handing them teddy bears and stickers. That's not the way we're going to address this problem. We need to take a real world approach to it.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson, up to 1 minute to respond or rebut.
Well, no, never mind, I'm not going to go there. Sure. All of these things combined have been helpful. All of these issues have been helpful in education, because I have had kids come up to me, men and women come up to me who said, I was in your DARE class and I want you to know that I'm drug-free. I never have done drugs. So are there successes? Yes, absolutely there are. There are failures when we go through the arrests of people. And yet there are also successes when we arrest somebody and they make different choices in their lives. So it is a combined effort, and I think that it's one that we've got to keep working on. We have to keep working on the education piece. We've got to keep the enforcement piece at a high level. I work with some great minds on the high-intensity drug trafficking area executive board in our state, and that's the way we're going to keep addressing this problem and get it fixed.
Thank you. Next question will be directed first toward Mr. Nelson. With a cut in the budget and the loss of several deputy positions, how will you provide the services needed or requested by the citizens of Cowlitz County? Would you campaign for a funding increase for the Sheriff's Department?
Well, how do you provide for the service with what you're given? We're doing that today. That's what we do. We're providing the service to the public, to those people who are paying our salary, to those people who that we're working for. All of us, all of you, everybody in Cowlitz County. That's what we do day in and day out. I have a certain amount of resources that I get. The commissioners set the sheriff's salary. I can go over, and I do, and every year I go over and I tell them what I need. Here's what I need to do the job that we have to do. But I'm only going to get so much of that funding because there's a whole bunch of other department heads that are over there who are making that same claim. Now, I always argue public safety. What's more important? There are two things. Any survey that you look at, there are two things that are important. Public safety and education. Those are the two things that people want to make sure are funded. So I have to say that we've been fairly successful in finding some ways to keep deputies on the street. A lot of that has been to do with levy shift of funds from the road department. Before that, there were diverted funds from the road department that allowed us to keep deputies funded. We're looking at that again this year in our requests to look at bringing some additional funding over from the road department to hopefully fund another couple of positions. Whether that will happen or not, I don't know. I keep advocating for it. It is ultimately a decision of the Board of Commissioners. So that's what I have to work with. And by the way, that's what I've been working with since 2009. And we continue to provide the service to our community. Would I advocate for some other special funding? There isn't really any other special funding that's out there. Quite frankly, there aren't sheriff's levies and things like there are in other states where you can do that. We don't have that option or ability to do that. So I can advocate for additional monies, it's true, but to be able to just, I can't manufacture the dollars. And if I could, they'd go into the general fund and the commissioners would decide how they got spent. So basically that's where it's at for general fund finances and how we get our money and why we've got what we have today.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Same question, Mr. Ullmann. Would you care for it repeated?
I think I understand. I think I understand the question to be basically, would I advocate for a tax of some sort for law enforcement? Before any of that would begin or even be considered, we need to really look at the way the structure of the sheriff's office is working right now. We need to look at the money we have and how we can allocate the resources within the sheriff's office in a better way to ensure that we need additional revenue. And my opponent alluded to the fact of going to the commissioners and talking to the commissioners. I will absolutely go in front of the commissioners and stomp my feet and tell them I need all the money. Because it's my department, I need the money to make my department better. Now, the realist understands that you're not going to get all the money, but you have to make up an argument for it. I'm going to argue, I'm going to give a complete plan as to what we're going to do. Here's the plan, here's going to be the end result, and here's what you're going to get for the dollar. I'm not going to just go to the commissioner and say I need 12 deputies. That's not how my plan is. We're going to put together a detailed, organized plan to talk about we've restructured within, we've done everything that we can do with what we have. Now, here's what we need. Once all of that has been exhausted, if the tax comes, more money would be great. But I understand that it's not even on my radar at this point. I wouldn't even consider it right now. I think we can better utilize our current resources before we ever have to step out and ask for any kind of a tax.
Thank you, Mr. Ullmann. Up to 1 minute to respond or rebut. Mr. Nelson?
So we go through this process every year. I understand that my opponent would not necessarily be familiar with that because he's not part of that process. But I am, and I have been for the last 5 years. We go through this process every year. We look at our costs. We look at the number of people that we have. We do go in with justifications. In fact, we're required to have justifications for any additional personnel that we advocate for. So we make that argument. We go in and fight that fight every single year. And in fact, throughout the year, I have that discussion with the commissioners. We meet on a regular basis, and I have that discussion with them. They know where we stand. They know where we are. They know what we need because I make sure it is high on their awareness list. So the fact that we don't have it, it is a prioritization on their part for the funding.
Thank you. Mr. Ullmann, up to 1 minute to respond to rebut.
I don't think I have anything to add.
Next question will be directed first toward Mr. Ullmann. What is your stand for the need of a sheriff's department clergy? Why can't this be filled with local clergy?
That's an interesting question. The chaplaincy is not funded by the sheriff's office. It's an independent organization. It's a wonderful organization. They have a very, very valuable role in our law enforcement and our emergency services community, period. I mean, they respond with fire. They do a lot of things above and beyond. And I can tell you, I've called on them so many times to help with what we do. So it costs the sheriff's office nothing for their services. I think the way they're set up is a fantastic way, and I think it works just fine for emergency services. So it's not taxing on our process, so I don't see any need to change it the way it is.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson, same question. Would you like it repeated?
No, that's right. The chaplaincy is an issue that is near and dear to my heart because my father started the Cowles County chaplaincy. It was really his brainchild, if you will, his inspiration that started the Cowles County Sheriff's Chaplaincy. And it was the Sheriff's Chaplaincy. Corporately, it's still called the Sheriff's Chaplaincy, but in reality, it is the Cowles Chaplaincy. The chaplaincies that we currently employ, and I'm the chairman of the chaplaincy board currently. The chaplains that we employ are 3 men, local clergymen who have a call on their lives to minister to law enforcement and emergency services. It's not just for cops. They deal with fire. They deal with emergency medical. Basically any emergency service that there is that's out there where you've got people who are dealing with people in situations when they're at their worst. That's what those people are there for. As far as using local clergy, well, they are, but we also do. We have volunteer chaplains who are pastors or other clergy from around the area who, and some of them are laymen, but are chaplains and have gone through the process, but they also serve. They come and help out. They help fill in for shifts when maybe there isn't a chaplain available for whatever reason, which does not happen very often, but they're there for us as a resource. So we do use local chaplains. No public funds are used to support the sheriff's chaplaincy or Cowles chaplaincy. No public funds, no from anywhere. Not from the sheriff's office, not from Longview, not from Kelso. Every dime that they bring in comes from donation. I think we might have gotten a first grant even actually last year. Was the first grant monies that came in. Everything else is all donation by the community. So it is a wonderful resource. There's nothing you love seeing more than a chaplain come up when you're dealing with a traumatic situation such as a death in a family. They come in and help us deal with the family, walk through the process with them. They are an absolutely wonderful resource, and I don't think any of the guys would want to be without them.
Thank you. Mr. Ullmann, up to 1 minute to...
We don't have anything to add.
I assume since he didn't, you'll...
I don't even...
The next question is directed first at Mr. Nelson. It's a compilation of 2 questions here. In parts of our country, there have been allegations of unfair treatment of ethnic minorities. How could the Sheriff's Office influence positive change in our community and provide a sense of justice for persons of all ethnic backgrounds? And kind of combined with that, how will your religious beliefs affect your decisions to protect the rights of the LGBT citizens in our community?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, there are a lot of laws that we have that cover people's rights, as you are aware. And many ethnic minorities are included in those. In fact, just about everything is covered in there. So minorities really haven't been an issue for us as far as dealing with them, because we deal with everybody on with the law as our foundation. So it's not really been an issue for us as far as finding one minority group or another minority group, and it doesn't matter whether that group is it's an ethnic issue or a sexual preference issue. Those things, it's not about that. It's about what are the circumstances presented to the officer when they arrive, and what does the law say is either required or allowed as far as them moving forward with that. So we have policies in place that address how people are treated. There's even a policy, there's even a law about discrimination against motorcycle riders. So, we've pretty much got it covered, I think, out there as far as the public goes. So we basically treat everyone based on, like I said, the circumstances and whatever the law says. I don't see any deviations from that from an administrative point of view. If there were and they came in, we would certainly address those issues, but they're not. My religious beliefs, quite honestly, I have a job to do. I'm sworn to do. I follow the Constitution and laws of the United States and the state of Washington. That's my job, and I treat everyone with honor and respect, and that's the foundation of who I am. It's the foundation of my faith.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Mr. Ullmann, same question. It's a combination. Do you want re-asked?
Okay. I want to start by saying that we have some extraordinary police officers in this county. And it's not just the Sheriff's Office. And I think I could probably speak for all of law enforcement in Cowlitz County, in that I have never personally seen any type of profiling, any type of discriminatory behavior whatsoever. That's not what we're trained to do. It's very, very entrenched in every law enforcement officer at the academy that's just not tolerable. You just can't do that. And the screening that we do for people when they come into law enforcement, we look at that. We look for those types of biases, and we don't want that involved in our department. And we don't allow it. And I've never seen it. To me, it's really a non-issue. I don't see that as being something that has ever, at least not around me, has ever occurred. And I can speak, like I said, for all the law enforcement in Cowlitz County, and that we don't police that way. That's really not in our nature. As far as reaching out to the community, I think the Sheriff's Office can really do a better job of more community involvement. We need to get in the community. We need to go and spend time at some events as a Sheriff's Office. Not in uniform, but as people from the Sheriff's Office. That connection with the community is what will make the difference. We have to be involved. We have to be involved in more meetings with the different groups, with the LGBT community. Let's talk about issues that they're having. I want to know. I want to be involved. I have many family members that are involved. And it's important to me. That's an important cause. So I embrace it. My religious beliefs have nothing to do with the way I do police work. I have my faith. I have my ability to see and do what's right. And I'm also sworn to uphold the law, and I will uphold the law. And it's very simple. That's all there is to it. And we hold every deputy in our department, and we hold every officer in this county to the same standard. So it won't waver. We'll continue that. But I really want to reach out and create more community activities, more community involvement with the Sheriff's Office. Let's get the Sheriff's Office out to let people know that we're human too. We have gay people in law enforcement, and that's wonderful. We have a lot of different religious beliefs in law enforcement, and that's wonderful. Let's keep it that way, and I encourage it.
Thank you, Mr. Ullmann. Mr. Nelson, up to 1 minute to respond or rebut.
Okay. I will just say this again. This is not an issue that we deal with, I believe, in our area. I've worked for two of the major agencies, the two major agencies in Cowlitz County, both the City of Longview and the Sheriff's Office. It's just not an issue that I have seen. And that's over 3 times the years of experience as my opponent in seeing this, 3 times the opportunity to witness those. As far as community events, we are active. We are involved in the community. We've got people serving on city councils, on sports teams, on boards, all across our community. So we're out there. The Sheriff's Office is out there. People know us. We are involved. We hold community meetings several times a year in various parts of the county. We are out there.
Thank you. Mr. Ullmann, up to 1 minute to respond or rebut.
I would just say that we are not involved. And I work in the office, I know. We have individuals that are involved, but they're involved as individuals. I want the Sheriff's Office to be involved. I want the Sheriff sponsoring events and being part of things. Not just the individuals. The individuals, that's wonderful. I love what they're doing, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm referring to the Sheriff's Office as a whole and being known as a community member with the whole agency.
Thank you. Next question will be directed first to Mr. Ullmann. This question is, do you consider gangs to be a serious law enforcement issue in Cowlitz County? Is the problem stable, increasing, or decreasing, and what should be done?
In rural Cowlitz County, we don't have the gang issue as much as the cities have it. It is a very real issue, and it's very rapidly escalating. When I was first in the drug task force, one of the things we saw was a lot of the graffiti and a lot of the gang activity. And we really dismissed it back then as being, it's a bunch of kids that are, acting out trying to be gangsters. But what's happening is these kids aren't just acting out trying to be gangsters, they're actually doing gang activity that makes them gangsters. So it has become very real. What we thought once was just kids being kids is not accurate. We're learning quickly that it is a very big issue, and it's something that has to be taken seriously. And from what I understand, I believe there is a gang task force that's being formed right now to address that issue. And that, like I said, is more inside the city of Longview and Kelso than it is out in rural Cowlitz County. But it's a very real issue, and it's something that has to be addressed and got a hold of quickly.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson, same question.
Back in the early to mid-90s, we began to see an issue evolving regarding gangs in not only in the city of Longview, city of Kelso, but spreading out into rural Cowlitz County. As a deputy then, I was assigned and got together with a representative from Longview and one from Kelso, and we formed a mini gang task force. We put together information, we put together pamphlets, we went out into the community, spoke to a number of groups, and addressed this issue. I was proud of the fact that we as a community recognized that this was going on. We had some very, very well-attended forums and got information out there. I think one of the reasons why it didn't take off and grow at the time was probably because the population was fairly transient. And most of these things, most of the gangs are established geographically. So they're the 23rd Street this, or they're the something hill that. But geographically is what draws them together. Now, when that area is pretty transient, then they don't have time to get plugged in and locked in and stay there. However, over the past 15, 20 years, now we've seen some things change in that we've got people from outside of the area that are moving here. And so this problem has become a little more entrenched. Plus, with some of the new landlord laws and subsidizing housing, well, now we've got people who do actually come and get moved in, and they stay in one place for a longer period of time. I'm part of the gang task force that's begun. It is being addressed here locally. We are primarily seeing this issue in the city of Longview, some into the city of Kelso. We've not yet really been experiencing any of the fingers of that in the county so much, but we do know that it's a matter of time, and probably a short amount of time. So that's why we're getting on board with this at this time to begin moving that direction. A lot of people are in prison, and we're watching those people who this is home for them, and so they're getting an even better gang indoctrination there. We are expecting this issue to grow.
Thank you. Mr. Ullmann, up to 1 minute to respond to
I
rebut.
don't think I have anything to add.
Mr. Nelson, you want to yield your... This is question 6. This one will be directed first to Mr. Nelson. How could the Cowlitz County Sheriff's Office work as a partner with cities within Cowlitz County, and how could those partnerships be enhanced?
Currently, we work very much in concert with the police departments here in Cowlitz County. I meet on a monthly basis. I'm the chairman of the Cowlitz Association of Sheriff and Police Chiefs. Have been for the last several years. I chair that board. And this is the compilation of all of the police chiefs. It includes the prosecutor, and it includes the Washington State Patrol district captain. And we all meet, and we get together, and we talk about issues within our agencies. We talk about issues that we can collaborate on. We let one another know that there are things that what's going on within our own agency. There have been plenty of times when we have asked for assistance, and we do help cover things for one another. It's not unusual for us, even on a small basis, for us, if we have a meeting, say an all-agency department meeting, for us to call those agencies or talk with those agencies at our meeting and say, we're going to be having an all-agency meeting this day. Will you please cover our area for any in-progress calls? We always do that. That's just the way that we do business. On a street level, I can tell you for 37 years, there's never been an issue with the people working the street and working together. And it's the same way at the agency head. I will tell you that. All of the agency heads for each of the agencies, we talk about it a lot. We're proud of the way that we work together. It's a great thing. I love working with Chief Hamilton, Chief Dusha. Chief Dusha and I worked the streets of Longview together and got into some really wild things back in those old days, so when things were wilder. But we work very closely with all of those agencies. So how we might grow, we've talked about just about every topic that there is, and how we might integrate, if we could integrate, or it was something we would want to do. So all of those things have been on the table at one time or another. We look at the way we do business constantly. So it's not like we're not moving anywhere. We're constantly looking at that and talking about it amongst the agencies.
Thank you. Mr. Ullmann, same question?
We do have great working relationships on the street. We work every day. We need each other on the street. Cowles County really is an island. We don't interact much with Clark County Sheriff's Office or their police departments or Skamania. We do work with them, but not very often, or Lewis County, or any of the surrounding counties. So we really rely on every agency within Cowles County to work together. We all go to the same academy. We basically drive the same cars. We have the same tools. We do everything together. So it's important, and when I alluded to earlier, the fact that law enforcement's changing. The way we're doing police work is changing. Crime is changing. And this is where it's important that we look forward and start thinking of new creative ways of doing business. This is where we're stymieing. We talk and talk and talk and talk. There's lots of talk going on, but it's time to actually put a plan in place. Let's do something different. Let's break away from the way we've always done business, and let's talk about, okay, we have frauds they have no borders. People are committing crimes on the internet now that it isn't just happening in Longview or Kelso or in Riderwood. It's happening everywhere, and it's crossing jurisdictional boundaries regularly. So we have to look at that, and we have to be realistic in how we do this. So let's talk about doing a major crimes unit together. Right now, I work in the sex offender verification unit. We are #1 per capita in the state for sex crimes, for registered sex offenders in our county. #1 per capita in the state. That tells us there's a lot of crimes going on in that regard. Let's talk with the other agencies and let's create a plan to go after this. Let's create a major crimes unit that involves every agency. I know there's no funding for that. We'll look for grants. We will get grants, and we'll get creative on the way we can utilize and share resources within the agencies. I know it's easy to say right now, but it has to be started. You have to start it somewhere, and if you don't get it out in the beginning, then it'll never happen. If you don't start talking about new ways of doing things, we're going to continue to do the things we've been doing all along. Yes, we have great law enforcement in Cowles County, but it's time to take it to that next level. And my opponent said that it's not going to happen in Cowles County. Why not? Why is it not going to happen in Cowles County? Why can't we be the trendsetters to start something new? I think we can do it. And I think it's never going to happen if we don't accept change and make a stab at it.
Thank you, Mr. Ullmann. Mr. Nelson, 1 minute to respond or rebut.
Well, you might recall I wasn't talking, I was talking about the drug problem when I said we're not going to fix it here, I think was what that was about. And I don't think it's likely that we will. We'll keep working on it. We have agreements with all of the other bordering sheriffs, all the other bordering agencies. Probably the biggest issue that we have right now is communications. It's radio, being able to talk to each other. That is in a huge transition, big flux right now. So we are buying and looking at patch systems so that we can open up communications with these other agencies. But it is a challenge. Some of what my opponent was saying, it sounds like he's advocating for a state police, and I don't think that's where he's going or a good idea. A major crimes unit is great when you have enough people to put in there. We don't.
Thank you. Mr. Ullmann, 1 minute to respond or rebut.
I can tell you that I'm not advocating for a militia type thing. That's not at all what I'm saying. We have the same resources. We have to work together, and we have to work together smartly. Instead of just responding to everything, let's look at preventing crime. That's what I'm talking about. Working together with the other agencies, not creating one agency. I'm talking about working together collaboratively and creatively and getting ahead of the problem to work to prevent crime, not just responding to it.
Thank you. The next question will be directed first to Mr. Ullmann. If you upgrade the use of technology in the department, would you be requesting additional monies to fund this technology, or would you cut existing programs or positions to fund it? If the latter, which services or positions would you cut?
Obviously a delicate question in that I wouldn't advocate to cut any services. The Sheriff's Office budget is very fine as it is right now. Of a $5 million budget, over $4 million of that is in salaries and benefits. So the Sheriff has actually little discretion over the funds he can actually use. So I would not advocate for cutting of anything. We would have to get grants. We would have to go out and find the funding. I know there are grants out there. I know there are some very creative grant writers out there. People are getting the equipment. The equipment is available and grants are available. And we have to go after it that way. I'll ask the county for additional money. If the money's there, then hopefully we can utilize that for technology. But I will not start cutting from our budget to replace it with technology. That's not my plan at all. There's a lot of technology we need to get our hands on. We have a lot of great technology right now that's been coming in. But I'm not an advocate of cutting existing resources in order to gain more technology.
Thank you, Mr. Ullmann. Mr. Nelson, same question. Did you need it repeated? Or?
Oh, that's right. We do have a lot of good technology coming in. And we've been working hard on this topic for a number of years. Technology's not going to go away. In fact, we know that it just it continues to grow. You all know you get a smartphone, and by the time you actually get it programmed, it's dumb because there's a smarter phone that's out. So, but we're doing that. All of those things. We have new mobile data terminals coming in to our cars, costing a good deal of money, $200,000+, which is money that has been being set aside for replacement of those for the last several years. We've had the foresight to continue to put money away for those replacements. Now we're at that point. We have to replace all of them in all 44 marked vehicles. So we've got these coming in. I take it back. We're not going to do all the marked cars, but all of the marked patrol cars that are actually out on the street. We'll be putting computers in those cars, replacing those. We've put cameras in the cars, dash cams. You guys have all seen the stuff on television, all of the things that are going on. People expect to be able to see what's happening. Not only is it a huge safety issue for the officers themselves, but it's also a liability protector for the county, for us. So we're in the process of putting dash cams in all of our cars. The next topic, of course, that's coming up is the issue of body cams. That requires a few things like some labor discussions. There are some agencies that are pushing for that. There are some agencies that are advocating strongly against that. But it is an issue right now that is coming up across our state, across the country. And it's one that we're looking at as well. As far as grants, it's great. Grants are wonderful if you can find the right ones that fit. I'll tell you that with our economy being the way that it is, finding grants has been far more challenging the last 5 years than it was, say, 10 years ago, because the money's just not out there. So unless you can find that specific niche, those grants are very, very difficult to come by. And by the way, grant writers, you got to pay them, so you got to come up with the money to hire a grant writer.
Thank you. Mr. Ullmann, 1 minute to respond or rebut.
Don't have anything to say.
Mr. Nelson?
Thank you.
We are approaching 1 hour, and I promised people that I'd try and keep it to an hour, so we will move to closing statements. First up for closing statement is Mr. Ullmann.
Well, again, thank you for being here and missing the World Series. Do we have a score update?
6-0 looks like.
6-0, okay. I'm part of this community. I'm very vested in this community. I've raised my family here, and I want this community to succeed. That's my goal. My goal is to have a sheriff's office that is proactive, that a sheriff's office that is out trying to stop crime before it happens. I know that's a lofty goal. I know that's not, we can't just say we're going to stop crime. Impossible. But we have to start somewhere. And we have to accept the fact that it's time to change and move forward at the sheriff's office. We have provided a wonderful standardization of service, and it's been great for many, many years. But things are changing. Times are changing. Technology is changing the way we do our job, and we have to stay in front of that. And we have to have a group of people that's going to take us forward to that. We work for the community. We work for you as taxpayers. So I would expect because I'm a taxpayer too. I pay my own salary. It's incredible. So I understand. I understand what everybody wants and needs in our community. I understand we want to be safe in our community. I'm willing to take that chance. Standing up here talking in front of your boss and trying to tell him that you're smarter than him is not an easy thing to do. But I can tell you it's worth it. It's going to be worth it in the long run, and we're going to make a difference, and we're going to make a change at the Sheriff's Office. So hopefully you'll vote for me in November. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson, closing statement.
First of all, thank you all for being here. Like I said, taking time out of your evening to come and sit and listen to a couple of people have a discussion like this is, some of you may find it entertaining. It's maybe better than a reality show because it's live. I don't know, but thank you anyway for taking the time to be here. I greatly appreciate it. I've made a career out of serving. It's a part of who I am. It's how I was raised. It's what was modeled for me. For nearly 40 years, I've been serving this community. Started off as a volunteer serving this community, and then continued as a profession moving forward in law enforcement. It was not necessarily my goal to end up in this position, but it is where I ended up. I made opportunity. There were opportunities for promotion. I took those opportunities and I got promoted. Not once, not twice, but 3 times when I consider the appointment. All of those competitive. I have put myself out to the community and said, I'm here to serve. That's what I'm here for. I serve the people of this community. You're who I work for. And 4 years ago, you put your trust in me, and you put your faith in me, and you put your hope in me, and I've never been more honored by anything in my life. We've had some real successes. We've had some real challenges. I'm proud of the successes that we have. I have a vision for the future. The Sheriff's Office is moving forward, along with the whole rest of Cowlitz County government. We are moving forward. There's no stopping. You're going to get left behind if you're not involved. I serve on the innovations team with the county. I'm part of the planning process that moves us forward. So don't be fooled. Don't be fooled to think that I'm stuck in a different time zone. I'm not. I'm just like every one of you. I've only got today. That's all we've got. But we're moving forward with every step. And I want to thank you again. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
First of all, there's a number of thank yous that we need to make this evening. First up is Ken Botero for putting these seminars or these debates together. I like the format that he's come up with where we focus on a single client. If you see Ken, thank him, but be sure and tease him about not being here this evening. I would like also to thank everyone who attended this evening. It's wonderful to see people come out and listen to their candidates, learn what's happening with their community. Thank you to the media, to Dwayne recording this. I know we've had somebody from the Daily News in the previous 2. We have somebody from the Daily News as well. Thank you to the Daily News for covering these. And my final and most important thank you is to our candidates, Mark Nelson and Darren Ullmann. It's not easy matter in these days to put yourself forward for public office, and I certainly appreciate both of them for putting themselves forward, and we have 2 fine candidates for that office. There are some questions we didn't get to. Thank you. And that probably is important to, you didn't come here to listen to me, so I will wrap this up fairly quickly. We weren't able to get to all the questions. However, I would invite the candidates to stick around for a few minutes and the audience to stick around for a few minutes. We had questions regarding the role of politics making decisions at the Sheriff's Office, what positions they have had within the Sheriff's Office, and a question regarding trespass on private property. So if any of you audience members have those questions you'd like to ask them of our candidates, I would appreciate you doing so afterwards. Our last debate of the 4 is coming up next Tuesday, October 28th. The Cowles County PUD Commissioner race is coming, and Dina Diamond Ott and Lauren Civila. Did I get it finally right? Thank you. I got a thumbs up. I struggled with that name so much. Finally, in concluding, if any of you have any input for ways that we can improve these in the future, we appreciate hearing that. So either let myself or Ken Botero know. With that, thank you for coming.